Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 889. My opponent started off with e4, and I went with e5. We get a classical opening here. He attacks the pawn on e5, and I defend it, and he plays bishop c4, the Italian game, or giuoco piano. So I go bishop c5. That's my favorite way of playing. You can also play knight f6, the two knights defense. Leads to interesting tactical play. But this is a line I've learned, and at this point, castling is not the most common move here. It's can lead to some interesting gambits though. C3 is the main move, or you can just play quietly with D3, or you can go for the Evans gambit with B4. Anyway, let's follow the game. In castles, I play knight f6, attacking his e-pawn, and most common move here is just to defend it with D3. Play would continue. We get kind of a similar position in the game just after a few more moves. He defends with knight c3. There are gambit lines here, though. d4, I think, is the most interesting one. You have to remember a few things if you're black and you face this. First is to take with the bishop so that the bishop defends your e-pawn. Then he takes. You can take back with the piece. That's best to keep his e-pawn from coming forward. And then he can play f4 to undermine, and you can defend with d6. And you're a piece up. White has the bishop pair and a little bit of compensation, but you should be okay. But anyway, he wasn't going for any gambits. He just defended the pawn with knight to c3. And I castled here. d6 is a move, maybe the more common move, and maybe it's better, but I don't like to lock out this bishop. The bishop might want to retreat in some cases to e7 to unpin the knight, so I'm leaving that possibility open by castling here. He goes d3, and now I go h6, I thought. Oh, he didn't go d3. He went to a3. And so at this point I play a5 to stop him from advancing his b-pawn forward and harassing my bishop, and also to give this bishop a retreat square if the knight comes out to harass it. And we're just out of the book after this. We were already in a section where there were very few games. Now he plays d3. And I go h6. So now this bishop's diagonal has been opened. I want to stop him from coming out and pinning my knight. And after I get that in, if I successfully get in this move h6, then I'll be free to play the move d3. Which is how it goes in the game. He plays knight e2 here. Yeah, I don't think that's the strongest move here. The chess engine likes h3, actually, and it thinks white is still doing fine. After knight e2, it actually sort of likes black. So I go d6. My knight is not getting pinned. This bishop is doing a good job on this side of the pawn chain. And he made a mistake here. He went knight h4. So there's a tactic here that I missed in the game, but you should be able to spot it now that I've pointed it out. Pause the video if you want time to think about it. I'm going to give the answer away right now. Yeah, you can just take this pawn. He's put his knight on a square where it's not protected, and you always have this discovery available when that happens. So that's a very typical kind of tactic. Definitely something I should have spotted. I don't know. Well, this knight d4 move is a nice move anyway. It's a good square. It would have been the best move, except that I had a better move due to the tactic that I just overlooked. So anyway, he traded here, and he played c3 to kick my bishop back, but I'm still keeping it on this good diagonal, and yeah, I still have some control over this f5 square. If he hops the knight in there immediately, I'll probably just trade it off, even though I am giving him the bishop pair in that case. But he went ahead and sacrificed at this point. He played bishop takes h6. So this really does not work at all. Best play for white is to play queen f3. Well, there are other moves too, but if he wants to play for the attack, this is the best way to proceed. I could play something like bishop g4 supported by the knight. He could go here, and I could move my king to the side to unpin. And this game is about even. There are attacking chances. He can follow up with f4 here, try and blast open the f-file, maybe sack the knight here and take the bishop. But I have time to get my pieces in in to defend as well. He's got to move his king out of the way first before he can move the f-pawn because of the pin. So this bishop is still doing a job all the way over here. So that's why it's okay for black, but okay for white as well. But bishop takes h6 should not work. I didn't quite find the best defense here, but taking is correct. And he came out with queen f3. He came out with queen f3. And I played bishop b6. I've been in these under attack like this before, and often it's very annoying to have this pin on the f-pawn. It allows the knight or other pieces to use the g6 square. And so I was trying to break the pin right away. So that's still a winning move for black. This is still winning for black, the move I played in the game, but maybe not the easiest way to play. King to h7, just directly defending that square and keeping the bishop out seems to be one of the better moves here. Another way to play this is to go with this bishop g4 idea first, and then step aside with the king either to h7 or h8. Didn't matter in that case. But well, I played bishop e6, and this should still be winning. But now I have to play the correct move here. Let's see how we went to g3 check. So if I play king to h8, this is still pretty easily winning. He can hop his knight in here, attacking my pawn. I can go knight h5, hitting his queen. Let's see, he can move the queen to the side, and then I can bring my queen out to g5. And I'm just a piece up, basically. And I even have ideas of bringing a rook over here and counterattacking on the g-file there. So there's really nothing going on here for white, and that's a pretty straightforward win. So it's a pretty, it's a maybe a subtle difference, but the problem is that this move here allows his queen to come in with check, which I didn't spot. He just trades first, and then that's opened up the g6 square once again, and his queen comes in with check. So it loses a tempo compared to the other lines. So it's just not as good, and in fact this should draw for white with best play. And we play this correctly here, queen h6 check, and then I saw that this would lead to a draw. If I just move my king to the side, he goes here, I go back, and it's just a repetition. So white gets a draw, but I didn't feel like he deserved a draw. And so I played knight h7, which allows the game to continue, but now white's just slightly better. And he plays this part correctly. So brings the knight in for check, and then grabs the exchange here. And then, yeah. So we'll pause here before I go on to the next move and just look at things. So I've got two pieces for a rook, the bishop and the knight for the rook. They're not too badly placed. The knight's here defending the king. The bishop is still looking at white's king. I just have to get my queen and my rook into the game. But from a material point of view, those two pieces are not as strong as a rook plus the two pawns. He's got a rook and two pawns for those two pieces. That is a slight material edge to white, plus the fact that my king is exposed, and he's got these passed pawns over here, means that this is an advantage to white. The engine evaluation varies from 1 to 1.5 points, so maybe white should, I would say white should probably go on to win this with correct play. But the, well, I'll just show this line. Now we come to the moves where he's not quite following up correctly. This is actually the best move, king h1, just unpinning the f-pawn. And it's a pretty simple idea. Just push that f-pawn forward now that you've unpinned it, and bring this rook into the game, and bring the other rook into the game, and just take advantage of my exposed king. Now it takes a few moves, so black also has time to organize some kind of defense over here, lift up a queen, bring a rook over. But all in all, it should be a pretty straightforward game with an advantage to white that I think he could convert. So that's the way he should have played it. He went with b4 over here on the queen side, and I can just ignore this move. It doesn't really do much. If he wants to take a pawn, I'll probably be able to pick it up later anyway. So I start getting my pieces organized, bringing them over to defense. Now he plays king h1, but I've had time to bring my queen over, harass his queen. The trades again lead to a position where white has that slight material edge, but my king is no longer in much danger, and so that's pretty even. So keeping the queens on is a good decision for white if he wants to keep his attacking chances. Let's see, I played queen f6 here, and then he went g4. And that's another mistake. He should just push on with f4, as I said before. Now that he's unpinned the f-pawn, why not open up a file for the rook? And that still keeps an advantage to white. After g4, it actually shifts around the other way, and there's a slight edge to black now. So just the wrong idea here. Anyway, let's see. I go knight g6, get my pieces involved. He goes g5. I went knight to f4, hitting his queen. Once again, the queen trade is probably good for me at this point because I'm now going to round up a pawn. So he avoids the queen trade. And then I went queen g6 here. He goes h4. And I go king f7 so I can bring my rook over. He goes f3. And I go rook h8. And now this final move, h5, is the no, it's not the final move of the game, but it's the final blunder. It's all over after that. He could play something like rook a2, allow me to take a pawn. So what black is better here. What black now has a material edge, and but white gets his pieces involved, and it's still a game with an advantage to black this time. But he pushed on, and this is actually a forced mate in two. I didn't realize it. What I wasn't noticing, I had noticed all this time the bishop was pinning the f-pawn, but now the f-pawn is out of the way. The bishop is taking away this escape square from the king. So I was expecting after rook takes that he would move his king over. That's not a legal move. And then I was going to take here and win his queen. So that was going to be winning for me anyway. But in fact, because the king has no moves here, this is a forced mate. He takes, I take, and the knight and the bishop are guarding the two escape squares there. So a pretty mate along the H file. Anyway, fun game. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you later. Bye.